4 people were killed in the early morning crash near the Administration Police Training College in Utawala, Embakasi.
Early Wednesday morning, residents of Utawala battled the flames at a commercial building. They had been jolted out of their sleep when an aeroplane fell out of the sky and crashed into a commercial building. The plane, registration number 5YCET, had taken off from Jomo Kenyatta Airport just after 4 in the morning. It was reportedly ferrying Mira to Mogadishu, Somalia. But just after takeoff, the plane crashed into the 2-story commercial building in Utawala, just outside the airport, and burst into flames. Firefighters from the airport and administration police officers from the nearby Administration Police Training College were first at the scene, working to put out the flames. They then launched search and rescue efforts.
What we have done is to cordon the area and put the fire off. And the rescue and the search if there is any person inside the building and the plane.
Skyward International, the company that owned the plane, would later confirm that the 4 crew members of the Fokker 27 Mark 50 aircraft, including the pilot, had succumbed to their injuries. However, it was reported that nobody had been inside the building at the time of the crash.
I think one watchman who was taking care of the building has been rushed to the hospital.
Transport Cabinet Secretary Michael Kamau says the crash is now the subject of an investigation launched by the Aircraft Accident Investigation Department of his ministry. 2 of the crash victims were buried late Wednesday evening. Wilkiston Yabo, KTN.
Now, a showdown looms between KTN and Jubilee alliances on the 7th of July. Both coalitions claim to have booked the historic Uhuru Park for their rallies, while for KTN it would be a culmination of their so-called consultative meetings with the people. The Jubilee Alliance members say they have booked the grounds for a peace rally. As KTN senior political reporter Sam Ogino now tells us, a section of top religious leaders are pleading with both sides to reconsider the Sabasaba gatherings.
Battle lines are drawn between the 2 coalitions over the venue to host their respective rallies on Monday. While KTN claims their Sabasaba rally will be hosted at Uhuru Park, Jubilee has planned a counter-peace rally at the same Uhuru Park grounds, jolting KTN to pay the Inspector General of Police, David Kimayo, a courtesy call to get assurances on security.
I want to assure members of the public that on our part and on the part of the assurances that we have been given by the Inspector General, there is going to be no trouble. We are going to have a peaceful meeting as characterized by the other meetings we've had.
Initially, when KTN released its calendar outlining the 12 nationwide public rallies, it had indicated their final rally coinciding with the Sabasaba Day will be held at the Kamukunji grounds in Nairobi. On the flip side, the Jubilee Alliance sent an alert that they will be inspecting Uhuru Park grounds on Wednesday afternoon for their Monday peace rally. But Jubilee later retracted the alert under unclear circumstances. KTN had also sent an alert to inspect the same grounds on Thursday morning.
The government of the Republic of Kenya knows that we are going to have a meeting in Uhuru Park, and officers have been assigned to make sure that that meeting is successful.
As far as we are concerned, we have a permit to hold the meeting at Uhuru Park.
KTN members have warned that the Sabasaba rally will give direction on the next course of action. The coalition insisting the rally will proceed as planned, despite reports of an alleged plot to infiltrate the gathering. KTN has dismissed the formation of the Inter-Party Parliamentary Caucus to spearhead dialogue within party lines. The KTN lieutenants, adamant that the 5 issues earmarked for talks require the president in person to dialogue with the opposition leader.
The debates that go on in Parliament can serve a purpose, but when you have a crisis like the one we have now, other means, constitutional means, must be deployed in order to resolve the national question.
Raila Amolo Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Wetangula, and those who are with them and who really understand what they are pursuing for, We want to see them having a meeting with the head of state.
Religious leaders from the Catholic Church were in status to prevail upon government to safeguard the country as tension builds ahead of the Sabasaba Day. The Catholic bishops urging both government and the opposition to ease up and allow the country to move forward. It is barely 5 days to the much touted defining moment in the country, with security apparatus put on high alert. Samugina, KTN.
You're watching KTN Prime. Thank you for staying with us. In the interest of accuracy, let me correct something in Samugina's story that seems to indicate that both CORD and Jubilee have booked the historic Uhuru Park for their rally slated for 7th of July. We have just received a clarification on that from Nairobi City County. They say ODM has reserved Uhuru Park venue for the 7th of July 2014 and are currently finalizing the payment process. So watch out for that clarification. Let's stay on the Sabasaba rally that is slated for the 7th of July. Even as the two political sides prepare to face off on Monday with their public gatherings, tens of families have started fleeing Naivasha in Nakuru County despite concerted efforts to assure them of their safety. Some of those fleeing were victims of the 2008 post-election violence who now fear that the Sabasaba rallies could trigger another confrontation. Fred Omulo has that story.
The families have been fleeing the town in droves over the last week, with many boarding buses heading to Western Kenya. At the local bus terminus, many camped for hours with their personal effects, waiting for transport as operators hiked their fare.
Umejua nyoka ikikuma mahali, ukipita hapo unadhani nyingine itakujia. Sisi tunapigana na tuwajui huko. Umejua sisi ndio tunapigana hapa. Nao wako huko. Wataleta vita na waende. Na sisi hapa. Tuko. Jirani yule atanikata na kesho mimi ndio nilimpea chumvi.
Wameenda sana kwa wingi. Penye mpaka wao tunakaa na wao kwa ploti wote wamehama, manyumba zinakaa bure.
Traders who have decried declining business in the town tried to assure the scared residents of their safety to no avail. Nakuru Deputy County Commissioner Silvano Mutembe assured Naivasha residents that there is nothing to fear and insisted security is tight. Many of those fleeing work in flower farms across Naivasha and bore the brunt of the violence in 2008 during retaliatory attacks by suspected members of the proscribed Mungiki sect.
Sasa tunashindwa, kwani kuna tabu gani? Tunawasafirisha kweli, lakini hatuna shida sisi hapa. Sisi hatuna shida hapa. Sinashindwa kwa nini wanaenda? Hata sisi tunashangaa manake kazi itakosa. Ni wenzetu tunawahitaji sisi. Ili tuende tukiendelea na kazi.
Rising political temperatures over CORD's planned Sabasaba rally on Monday have sparked fears of social meltdown if things turn violent. Fred Omulo, KTN Prime.
Let's now move to a big question, shall we? And on the big question tonight, we are asking you, as the Sabasaba rallies approach, do you feel safe where you are?
Let us know what you think. You can send a short message to the number 22155. You can tweet us at KTN Kenya, at Ben Kitile, at Linda Gutu. Let us know whether or not you feel safe.
Now, the incarceration of two coast politicians this past week has brought to the fore the always lingering side of coast politics, us against them.
Lamu Governor Issa Timammy is facing prosecution over the killings in Mpeketoni 3 weeks ago, while the Mombasa woman representative has been charged with incitement of a comment she made at a political rally.
But curiously, these prosecutions have seen coast politicians come together against what they see as a common enemy, the government.
Our senior coast reporter Ferdinand Omondi now gives us a look into the politics of the Kenyan coast.
When Issa Timammy and Mishi Mboko stepped out of Mombasa's court chambers and into the free atmosphere outside, a mixed crowd welcomed them with open defiance. This was no regular political rebuttal. It was a joint shield that defied political boundaries. Timammy is a UDF governor, the only in the country, and Mishi Mboko, an ODM lawmaker. But on this day, coast leaders, backed by national party heads from different alliances, formed a unified defensive ring.
Kama watagusa Lamu, basi waguse Mombasa, waguse Kwale, waguse Taita, waguse Kilifi, manake tuko tayari.
Na hatutaki kwamba watu innocent walikufa, kisha watu innocent wafungwe.
Kuna wenzetu wa CORD. Sisi tuko kwa Amani Coalition, lakini mtu akidhulumiwa, tuko pamoja.
Tutamtetea Issa Timammy. Tutamtetea Mama Mishi.
kwa uwezo wetu wote kisheria, kihali na mali.
The government is investigating the Lamu governor over possible murder, terrorism, and forcible transfer of persons. At least 65 people were killed in Peketoni area. The president and his interior secretary accused local politicians of involvement. Timammy sees himself as a sacrificial lamb. So do coastal leaders who also took issue at the manner of his arrest.
So, apande ndege paka Lamu na ambaye alikuwa ameofa kujileta Mombasa, umtie kwa pickup kwa masaa 4-8 paka Mombasa na mtu ambaye alikuwa amejiofa, hiyo ni dhuluma ya hali ya juu.
Analysts say Timammy's treatment is significant given the history of the coast region, which has felt routinely trampled on by the powers that be. The word oppression or dhulma in Swahili was used repeatedly at the court presence. Timammy insists that his arrest has to do with his attempts to ensure equal land rights for all people of Lamu. Meshimboko argued that she only spoke for the voiceless as empowered by the constitution.
Na sitababaishwa, sitatishwa, kama ni ukabila nitaupinga na nitaendelea kuupinga.
Mama Mishi amezungumzia kuhusu ukabila. Hata mimi nasema leo Kenya si kabila mbili. Na kama unataka kushika njooni leo.
The governor has been vocal about transparency of the upcoming LAPSET program and expressed concerns about the natives' land rights being ignored at the expense of investors and land grabbers. He has also expressed dissatisfaction at the manner in which title deeds are issued in the county.
Watu wote wa Lamu wafanyiwe haki. Hiyo naamini mimi hilo si kosa. Na ikiwa kusimamia watu kupata haki zao ni kosa, basi wanirudishe nifungwe.
The Mpeketoni matter remains a political landmine. The local Bajunis originally inhabited the area. In 1972, President Jomo Kenyatta made Mpeketoni a settlement scheme, and majority of the beneficiaries were the Kikuyu community. Their population has since spiraled from an estimated 25,000 in the 1999 census to around 50,000 currently. Mpeketoni is now the most populous region in a county with an estimated population of 102,000. The settlers have since exerted influence in voting patterns. In 2002, Lamu voted for Uhuru's KANU when the coast was riding the NARC wave. In 2007, Lamu East voted for ODM, while Lamu West, where Mpeketoni lies, voted for PNU. And in 2013, Lamu West voted for TNA, and the rest of the region voted for CORD. Taveta's Naomi Shaban and Kinango's Gonzi Rai are the only other TNA MPs in all 6 counties. Timammy chose UDF, which at the time was seen as a partner of the Jubilee Coalition, and succeeded on a platform of land rights. His arch-rival, TNS Fahim Twaha, got most of his votes from the Mpeketoni region, where he is perceived as more settler-friendly. There is growing disquiet over perceived settlers taking political seats, with some circles believing this should be a preserve of the indigenous people. The current Lamu West MP is Julius Ndegwa. But Jubilee's friendship with the UDF appears all but shredded with the Timammy case. The governor survived an election petition, and UDF party leader Musalia Mudavadi sees the same hands involved in his latest vows.
That there are schemes to get the deputy governor to resign. Then the people who are scheming will have created a vacuum in the government, county government of Lamu, and therefore will have succeeded in forcing an election.
Tunaelewa kuna mradi mkubwa uko mbele yetu wa LAPSET, na kuna watu ambao hawaamini serikali iko kama hawako kwa serikali.
The coast leaders are now interpreting the court cases as a state-sponsored campaign to knock them out of their seats in favor of friendly politicians. UDF is desperate to preserve the only gubernatorial seat they have, and CORD appears willing to back them up, if only to solidify support.
The coast people right now, they are like wounded, you know. You see the way the economy is because of security, everything. The tourists are not there and so on. So, to me, Jubilee must go back to the drawing board. Let them just go to the drawing board and say, how best can we work with the coastarians?
Historical injustices spanning decades have made the coastal people extremely cautious with their political dealings. Those entities that promise emancipation will always be given a listening ear, but this can easily turn into open hostility whenever one is seen as yet another stumbling block. Ferdinand Omondi, KTN, Mombasa.
Ferdinand there with an inside look at the intriguing politics of the Kenyan coast. Now the government will unveil some new guidelines to regulate foreign travel by officers from both the national and county governments.
Deputy President William Ruto says the new regulations have been formulated in a bid to ensure prudent management of public resources.
The decision to issue fresh regulations came amid reports by the Auditor General that members of the county assemblies were spending millions of Kenya shillings on lavish foreign trips.
A meeting of the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council resolved that the new travel regulations should set the limit on the amount of money to be spent by respective counties on foreign travel.
During the meeting, the Transition Authority was directed to finalize its audit of all assets and liabilities held by the defunct local authorities in preparation for their transfer.
Policy guidelines and standards for all foreign travel for both national government staff and county government staff, so that proper and prudent use of public funds in relations to foreign travel is achieved.
The National Assembly's Parliamentary Accounts Committee has accused the Judiciary's Tender Committee of rushing to buy a residence for the Chief Justice without a thorough evaluation of the property. The committee also says taxpayers could lose up to 250 million shillings if the Judiciary terminates a lease contract for the Court of Appeal offices situated at Elgon Place. Patrick Amimo has more.
Members of the National Assembly's Parliamentary Accounts Committee were on a fact-finding mission on the judiciary's expenditures on infrastructural projects. This containerized data center at the Supreme Court was supposed to help digitize judiciary records. It will cost the judiciary 160 million shillings to equip the facility. Judiciary has already paid the supplier 80% of the total cost. Yet, 2 years down the line, the committee says the equipment installed has not been tested to verify whether they are in working condition.
It is the word of the Director of IT that had they been consulted, this particular project, the containerized data center, would not have been a priority for them. They would have suggested other possibilities, other options that could possibly have been cheaper and perhaps even better.
This facility was supposed to host the Chief Justice. It sits on a half-acre plot. The judiciary paid 310 million shillings, but the Parliamentary Accounts Committee is raising questions. Renovation works are ongoing. The sockets and lighting wires are yet to be fixed, and so is the kitchen. Bedrooms and washrooms are still being spruced up. Green grime has colonized the swimming pool. The House Committee voiced its concerns.
It has come as a shock to the committee today that even after spending 310 million shillings of taxpayers' money, the judiciary is again spending even more money to supposedly renovate this property.
The Court of Appeal was supposed to move to this building in Upper Hill in April last year when judiciary paid 7.1 million shillings annual lease fee. The courtrooms are ready with video and audio-visual equipment installed. The judiciary has spent an extra 188.5 million shillings to renovate the building. But the presence of these communication masts and the associated emission of radiation instill fear in appellate judges to transact judicial functions here.
It has not been established conclusively whether that fear is founded or it is basically apprehension based on nothing.
Each judge has been allocated a chamber with a spacious office. They will not be sharing washrooms because each chamber is self-contained and a judge can comfortably take a hot shower inside the chambers should court proceedings get tough. Members made a note of the modern facilities.
Initial impression is that these would raise the bar in terms of the standards of our courthouses, in terms of facilities for judges, in terms of the kind of courtrooms where justice is dispensed.
The House Committee will table its report for debate in a fortnight. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
I take you to the North Rift now. When the plantation flourishes in Rimoi area of Keyo North in Elgeyo Marakwet County, the residents know they have to construct makeshift tree houses. Now, Rimoi village sits at the heart of the Rimoi National Reserve, that is the home to 400 wild elephants. KTN's Mercy Kandia tells us the innovation of a village to secure both their lives and their sources of livelihood.
It's life in the village where innovative ways are typical. For example, this man going to harvest honey has to smear himself with mud to avoid getting stung by bees. Here, it's the norm. Speaking of innovative ways,
Sai wakati ya mchana tunachunga kama mbuzi, kama tumbili. Halafu masaa ya usiku huwa tunachungia ndofu. The
tree houses in Rimoi area are the innovation of the villagers to chase the elephants and guard their farms against destruction.
Karibu tu kitu yoyote. Kama watermelon, mahindi, wimbi. Hivi yote tunakula inaharibu.
What their forefathers did, and their fathers too, because Gay says he is now in charge. His aging father can no longer climb the trees as fast. So how fast exactly can they climb?
Sasa ile inakuja. Tunatumianga karibu sekunde 3. Najua unaharakisha. 3 unaharakisha ushike tu hapa. Cowboy.
While on top, they talk to the elephants, pleading with them, they say, to spare their crops and their source of livelihood.
Hey, wetiga mamingala. Sayo inaenda tu hivyo.
The only time they rest is after the harvesting season.
Unaona sasa ni riski hata. Na serikali walituambia ati wamefunga lakini hawatusaidia.
Rimoi National Reserve has 400 elephants. The Kenya Wildlife Service says they try to contain their elephants with only a portion of the reserve yet to be fenced.
Sasa ni kubwa kabisa. Saizi ya hiyo lori. Ndovu moja.
And when the elephants fell a tree, it will take Kosgei 2 days to construct another tree house to protect his 3-acre piece of land. After all, it's survival for the fittest. Mercy Kandia, KTN, Rimoi, Elgeyo Marakwet County.
A very interesting story there from Elgeyo Marakwet. That is why in Kiswahili they say, akili ni mali, akili ni nywele, kila mtu ana yake. Now let's move on. And people living with disability in the country have a reason to smile after the 4th annual Nikofiti campaign was flagged off today in Nairobi. The campaign targets those who have been unable to afford supportive devices to enable them carry out their normal duties. Take a look.
This year's Nikofiti campaign was launched in Nairobi by the Standard Group in partnership with the Kenya Reinsurance Corporation and the Association of the Physically Disabled of Kenya. The campaign equips Kenyans living with disability with mobility devices like wheelchairs, prosthetic legs and shoes that can allow them to perform social and economic activities with minimal strain.
The government is calling upon the disabled to get into business so that they can be self-reliant, so that Nikofiti should only deal with those who are unable to help themselves.
The campaign, now in its 4th cycle, has seen individuals benefit from the noble exercise that is part of the Standard Group's corporate social responsibility.
Only through such initiatives that they get to own and transform their lives for the better by use of these supportive devices. That this year, the sponsorship from the Standard Group went up from 8 million last year to now 12 million.
The caravan will tour 10 counties in Western Kenya, including Kisumu, Kisii, Bungoma, and Kakamega, in a drive that is set to benefit 465 people living with disabilities.
To demutualize the Nairobi Securities Exchange, bringing it to an end the process that began in 2009. The plan, which will change the NSE from an entity that is owned by the members to a publicly owned company, and the self-listing of its shares. Here's KTN's Adelaide Changole.
An Until now, the NSE has been fully owned by 22 brokerage firms, which some say has made its operations opaque to the public and hindered it from taking action on rogue brokers. But now the CMA has approved plans to demutualize and eventually safe-list the NSE, which would allow Kenyans to buy and trade shares of the exchange.
Will be a more transparent organization because we shall be producing audited annual reports. Kenyans will be able to participate in our annual general meetings. It will be regulated like any other public listed company.
NSE says the demutualization will boost corporate governance and spur on market development and reforms, which will build investor confidence and position the bourse as a gateway into East and Central Africa's capital markets.
As a for-profit company, because now we will be owned by shareholders, there's more incentive for management to pursue projects that develop our capital markets.
The boss plans to issue an IPO by December 2014, moving the initial first quarter date forward. The exchange will offer a 31% stake to the public, raising this to 51% by 2017, as principal shareholders reduce their stake from the current 80% to less than 40%.
We'll be able to tie up with other stock exchanges in the region and create a regional stock exchange.
Proceeds of the IPO will be used to develop new products and upgrade the bourse's trading platform to allow faster, easier, and more secure trading as the NSE seeks to deepen the capital markets.
So we're upgrading our trading systems to boost our capacity to handle larger volumes of trade. We're also looking to introduce new products and services.
The NSE is the third largest exchange in Africa after South Africa and Nigeria, with a capitalization of 2.15 trillion shillings. It is targeting a fourfold rise in its market capitalization by 2023. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
The Parliamentary Committee on Energy has today raised concerns over the awarding of the 43 billion shilling tender for the construction of the new Mombasa-Nairobi pipeline to a Lebanese company, Zahim International. The committee is now insisting that the process be put on hold until the Kenya Pipeline Company explains to Kenyans how the process was carried out. Here is Philip Keitani.
Just a day after Zahim International was awarded the multi-billion shilling contract to construct the new Mombasa-Nairobi pipeline, the Parliamentary Committee on Energy insists the awarding of the contract was not above board and that the contract should be cancelled until issues raised are settled.
Under Article 227, it requires that all public procurements be done on the principle of fairness, equitability, transparency, competitiveness, and cost effectiveness.
This calls follows another directive by the Public Investment Committee that directed the government to suspend the implementation of the 43 billion shillings contract, also insisting the process leading to the contract was suspicious and thus its implementation should not commence.
The most glaring anomaly is that the tender conditions were clear, that the bid bond has to be issued by a Kenyan bank. The so-called winning bidder issued a tender, a bid bond issued by a Nigerian bank. Are there no Kenyan banks which can issue bid bonds?
The House Committee made the resolution after Kenya Pipeline Company Managing Director Charles Tanui failed to appear before the Watchdog Committee for the 7th time. Apart from suspending the project, PIC wants a forensic audit by the Office of the Auditor General to determine the financial prudence of the mega deal.
The winning bidder actually gave two prices, so how are they reconciled?
The committee has now issued a stern warning to the MD should he fail to appear before the committee on Tuesday next week, after he directed the Sergeant-at-Arms to serve the KPC boss with summons to appear. The MPs are accusing the management of KPC of rushing the process and evading Parliament, saying there was a sinister motive. Philip Keitan, KTN Business.
And finally, the Petroleum Institute of East Africa is challenging the government to deal with a number of illegal LPG dealers in the country. The influx of such traders has seen a dip in the standards, with illegal refilling, selling and holding of cylinders owned by rivals among the key challenges. Here's KTN's Charles Gitonga with the rest of that report.
Weak enforcement of the law governing safety and usage of LPG in households has been blamed for the influx of illegal filling dens in the country. Statistics by the Petroleum Institute of East Africa indicate that 70% of household gas cylinders in Kenya are filled in these illegitimate stations.
We in the industry as Petroleum Institute of East Africa are actually very disappointed that law enforcement in respect of illegal filling dens is very weak. We have told them where these dens are, they know them, and we dare say we feel they're protected by the internal security machinery.
Industry players note that even though the government has put in place regulations for the sector, the implementation bit of the same has failed to take off.
It is time they took action on illegal filling dens. The chief knows where they are, the DOs know, the police commissioner knows, and we are wondering as an industry why there is no action.
Incursion of the industry by these illegal traders is one of the numerous challenges that the LPG sector is facing, with infrastructure being yet another key challenge.
We have insufficient infrastructure and distribution facilities. I think the biggest facility we have is not more than 500 tons.
At the same time, the Ministry of Energy is seeking to introduce taxes on kerosene to get more people using LPG. Charles Gitonga, KTN Business.
Next are the numbers on the Financial Market Review.
Let's recap our top story tonight. And the Ministry of Transport is investigating the circumstances under which a cargo plane crashed just moments after takeoff from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. 4 people were killed in the early morning crash near the Administration Police Training College in Utawala, Embakasi.
So take a look at what's happening in Washington, D.C., where Kenya continued to showcase its culture and heritage at the ongoing Smithsonian Folklife Festival.
The Smithsonian Folklife Festival that is being held in Washington, D.C. has seen performances every day since Wednesday last week, with Kenyan musicians treating the audience to various kinds of cultural music. Kenyan performers are showcasing Kenya's diverse cultures.
The festival, though, allows us to experience one-on-one with artists, storytellers, dancers, cooks, musicians from all over the world, the people who actually create the objects that we see inside the museum.
Fun, we really enjoy it, leave alone us Kenyans. Even people from outside other countries, they're really having fun. We're enjoying Kenyan food, we're enjoying Kenyan music, and really we appreciate our culture.
I think we've served upwards of 30,000 people. We're expecting towards the end of this event to serve upwards of 150,000. You will tell from the lines, it's early morning today, you will tell from the lines just how long the lines go for us to feed them, and we're doing the best we can. It is a challenge making ugali for 10,000 people a day, but we're up to the challenge.
Other cultural artifacts from Kenya are also being showcased just to capture the rich culture that is Kenya.
It's been very good. The first week we had wonderful weather, and we have really enjoyed working with the participants from both China and from Kenya.
Kenya is referred to as the cradle of mankind, with the oldest archaeological finds having been found near Lake Turkana, and the festival has acknowledged this fact.
We're all Kenyan, all around the world. We're also bringing a full cast of the Turkana boy, which is the only complete skeleton of Homo erectus, and the visitors will have a chance to put him back together again.
The festival will continue till Sunday. Tabu Osusa told the Washington City paper that musicians will not punish people who want to listen, enjoy and dance to the Kenyan music by refusing to perform, since they owe it to the audience. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
It made the team to the 20th edition of the Games in Glasgow or in the 2010 New Delhi Games.
We learned on skills how to push the wheelchair, because for the first time we went to Commonwealth Games lastly, but this is the second time, so I think we have more experience.
22-year-old Caroline Wanjira will lead a team of 7 women who are confident of posting good results despite the numerous challenges they have had to overcome.
For me, it's fun because I enjoy it and I'm used to it. But maybe to other people, you can say it's hard because unajua unasukuma wheelchair kama umelalia miguu. So
the team that is currently in residential training camp at Kasarani also consists of 4 male athletes who include experienced Caleb Odio, Jonathan Sum, Gabriel Magu and Samuel Kuriangugi. They'll be counting on their 2010 Commonwealth Games experience to better their performance.
Kwa kila sport, inapawe na passion kitu ya kwanza. Kitu ya pili, work on it. Kitu ya tatu, uipatia 100% hiyo training. Ndio taza kumake time for.
The team will be under the stewardship of Matthew Mugenya, an athlete turned coach.
Kuongeza funding katika michezo ya walemavu Paralympic sports, ili wachezaji wetu wapate opportunities za kwenda exposure. Sababu the more they participate in international competitions, wana gain experience na pia wanapata ile uzoefu, inaondoa ile woga.
The close-knit team says it will take a step at a time until they complete the journey to the Commonwealth Games. And all the best to that determined team right there that will be representing Kenya in the 20th edition of the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, Scotland. And that's how we wrap up KTN Sports tonight. I'm Lane Washer. Do stay with KTN. Linda Ogutu and Ben Kitil will be back to wrap up KTN Prime.
So as the Sabasaba rallies approach, do you feel safe? That was our big question tonight. Let's see how you have polled.
67% of you say that it is indeed, you don't feel safe. 67% say no and 33% say yes.
Well, Geomax says more than before since Kimayo's team is on alert than ever before.
Dorino Gutu says, I don't know, uncertainty is what I feel. I need to know whether the government will or will not dialogue.
Bernard Abuga says no, because some goons are likely to take advantage of the rally and cause chaos for them to loot.
And Namoya says our leaders are in a better position to tell us whether it will be safe. They are the organizers.
Lucia Tino says no, I've not felt safe in a long time due to terrorism, and then this.
And then finally Infinity on Twitter says our safety will depend on how we react to what the leaders are telling us.
Right, you're watching KTN Prime. We are almost done. Just remember, immediately after this bulletin, we will be having Jeff Koinange live. Jeff Koinange will be hosting the Iron Lady, Martha Karua. They will be talking about so many issues in the country, including Sabasaba rally that is like 5 days ago, Jeff?